of our viewers, because there's,
it's all about the viewers. I'm glad you talked us in with that, Daryl, because it's all about the viewers. It's about delivering what the people want. And I believe what they want this week is for us, this month, right? This is the January discussion for the Philmont Trek Talk group on Facebook. We are the official, very unofficial group associated, but not really associated with Philmont, where we gather and talk about things Philmont related without being condoned, sponsored, or otherwise sanctioned by Philmont proper. Philmont related without being condoned, sponsored, or otherwise sanctioned by Philmont proper. It must be important because I heard it twice.
Yeah.
So anyhow, welcome. I we usually I see some people trickling in. That's good. We will kill a little bit of time before we do introductions so that we don't miss anyone. If you don't know what's happening here, let me see if I can find some things that are going to help us. We call this the Philmont Trek Talk Prep News and Info group on Facebook. That's where this came from. Just in case you were going to forget that, boom, we're going to put it up there as a little scroll at the bottom. There's a whole lot there for you to type if you aren't aware of the group and you want to go find it. It's there. We will, as always, there is a link in the description of this broadcast. If you happen to stumble across this broadcast and you hadn't found the group yet, go click the link, find the group. Tons of information in there. We have a bunch of kind-hearted, helpful, experienced Philmont veterans who look at that. Andy says, welcome, everyone. All right. We'll get to you, Andy. So our goal in that group, if I can speak for the group, is to help people have the best trek possible. And the group tends to be aimed at adults who are serving in a expedition leader, crew advisor type role to help them figure out how to set things up as smoothly as possible. I suppose we can support scouts in that endeavor as well, but we tend to be here to help the adults more than anything. So with that, I think we've killed enough time. We got enough people showing up here that we ran Andy off. So I was about to go that way for introductions. Maybe we'll go the other way to make sure. Change the scroll to say second Tuesday. That's a very good point that we have changed things here. I'm gonna have to figure out where that is. All right, just ignore in the scroll where it says first Tuesday of each month. We ran into some conflicts with panelists being on round tables and whatnot the first Tuesday of the month. So we bumped it to the second Tuesday. I will update that when we hit a slow patch in the broadcast. So what we're going to talk about on this discussion, and I've fallen into the old habit of calling it a broadcast because we are broadcasting, but the idea is this is supposed to be interactive. So you have the ability to leave comments, whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook. You have the ability to leave comments. If you're coming through Facebook, please go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. Give it permission to tell us who you are when you leave a comment. And then please go leave a comment. Tell us who you are, where you're from, when you're going, what questions you have. The topic for today is going to be itinerary selection for Philmont treks. So with that, why don't we go around? We'll start this way. As soon as he looks up and sees me, there we go. We'll do introductions and we'll go down and around and work our way back up.
Hello, everybody. Andy Parrish. I am the High Adventure Coordinator for Troop 152 in Westfield. And I am, a one-time veteran of Philmont, and I've got my ticket for 23, so I'll be going back.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Andy, where's Westfield? I don't know where Westfield is.
Westfield is north side of Indianapolis.
Oh,
awesome. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Scott O'Mary. I'm coming live to you from Plano, Texas, just north of Dallas, Texas. I am the scoutmaster of Troop 259 Boys here in Plano for the last 6 or 7 years. And I've been on a Philmont trek as well as a Philmont winter adventure. I'm wearing my winter adventure shirt tonight, as well as a lot of experience with Northern Tier, Bechtel Summit, and be hitting sea base Bahamas this summer before I round up, hopefully back to 2023 Philmont.
Nice.
Over
The
to
resident jet setter of our group, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, Daryl Tadson here from St. Louis. That's just kind of southwest of Westfield. Multiple treks, contingent leader to Philmont over the past 30 years. Serving currently as one of the council contingent advisors. Going again this year, 22, and have reservations for 23.
So you're basically what you're saying is you are a resident overachiever.
Well, I don't know about that, but I've certainly got Vermont in the blood.
Yeah, absolutely. And I gave the disclaimer earlier that this is not an official Philmont sanctioned group, but whenever I talk to the folks in charge at the ranch, Shelly has said Daryl's name more than anyone else's name when I've talked to her. Shelly, the operations, director, whatever her position is now, often refers me back to Daryl when we have questions about anything official. So he's our official, unofficial representative from the ranch.
So I'm the kind of the conduit or the pipeline.
There we go. We'll call it that. You may notice that,
I hope the comments that Shelly's made were positive.
as far as you know, absolutely. Yes.
Sure they were.
Yes.
Yeah, of course they were. So, so we're going to talk about how to select the itinerary. This is one of those things that, man, think about the first time you take a crew out there and you're faced with this thick book full of different options for different itineraries. How do you figure out what all this means? So we probably want to define some things, right? Like, what is an itinerary? Why is it important to a crew? If you're running, a crew, what's it mean to you? If you're running a contingent, what's that mean to that conglomeration of crews that you have? What are the general deadlines and processes involved? What else do we need to talk about? I think I'm trying to build an outline of what we're going to talk about. Obviously, people, if you have specific questions about your itineraries, let us know so we can work it into the outline.
Well, I think the itinerary selection, the first thing is, as stupid as it sounds, is read it. read the book. I know it's 200 and some odd pages, but there's a ton of just absolute terrific information in there. We're here on the Facebook page. Ask a question, we'll try to get you the answer and so forth. Yeah, there's the itinerary guidebook. But the itinerary,
Daryl, I'm going to jump in here real quickly, because the first step you mentioned just kills our scouts. They don't like to read any. They need pictures.
No, I wasn't talking about the scouts.
Oh, I know. We're gonna have to get to that point though in this conversation. Is how do we help those scouts pick their track? So we'll sidebar that for now. But that's the big hang up I got right there.
Yeah, I think the advisor, needs to read through it, try to get as best he or she can an understanding of what are the activities. I mean, the peaks tend to take care of themselves. What are the activities and what are the camps and what programs do they offer? I mean, rock climbing and rappelling is pretty straightforward. Climbing Mount Baldy is pretty straightforward. Black powder shooting. But what the heck is 3D archery? And then, gather the group and the guidebook or the choices, the discussion, have a discussion, maybe you go through the camps or the programs, and you define them with the kids, the youth. I mean, it's their trek. You also need to keep in mind, the ability of the crew. And, that can be a very young, scout who hasn't done much backpacking to, an adult who, has a little hard time chasing teenagers up and down mountains.
Sure. So let's frame the discussion a little bit. We went off in about 12 different directions there. So what is let's kind of make some bite-sized pieces here. What is the itinerary from a cruise perspective? What is the itinerary? Why is it important to them? What is it?
That is the guideline, the itinerary, the schedule of what they're going to do. The 10, the 7, the 9, the 12 days that they're at Philmont. The activities they're going to do it. It's going to outline them. It's going to outline the order they're going to do it in. I mean, we could drift off into commissaries and so forth, but it's really a blueprint of what we as a crew are going to do for the time that we're at Philmont.
Good. So at a high level, what are like the biggest considerations that you think about when you are do we have someone? Sal is joining us. All right, welcome, Sal. So the biggest considerations when you're picking your I say picking your itinerary, when you're picking your list of itineraries that you'd like to submit to Philmont to see which one you actually get, what are the biggest considerations for your cruise? And you guys speak up. I call on people. We can just kind of you speak up when you have thoughts.
Well, I'll jump in. I thought really the top few activities, the top programs that the scouts want to do, we kind of put that on the side. We're going to focus on those itineraries that offer those types of programs first. And we realize that, we can't do everything necessarily. There's probably not one itinerary that fits your 12-person cruise need, or the 8 scouts or 9 scouts in your crew that want to do everything. There's not one that's going to fit. So we try to prioritize it in those top 2 or 3 must-dos that they really want to do. And I also would include, in addition to the programs, maybe some of the peaks that they might want to hit along the way.
Sure.
Yep.
So
that's typically what I do with that, and that even comes before the itinerary selection. You say, what are my activities, and then what itineraries match up with the activities that I prioritize. And there are several tools available. The most simple one is attached to the gateway, camping gateway, where the advisor signs in, and they call it the Itinerary Explorer, and they can put in their choice of peaks, their choice of activities, their choice of camps, and it'll spit out at the bottom the various itineraries that address those top concerns that you have, or not concerns, the top activities that you want to do. It's very interesting. Once the crew decides this is unanimously our first choice, whatever that may be, about 2/3 of the itineraries fall away.
Yeah.
First choice as far as an activity or a goal.
Whatever, whether it's an activity or a peak, everybody says, I want to hike Baldy. That has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
There's only so many itineraries over.
Right. So kind of for someone who's not been to Philmont before, a distinction that I like to make is it especially for someone like me, I'm a gearhead. That's what I do for a living, is gear, right? So I think about backpacking. I think about what gear to take. I think about the machinations of backpacking and camping. I sometimes have to remind myself, oh yeah, what's different about a Philmont trek from a regular backpacking trip?
Yeah.
The Philmont trek to me is a series of adventures in the different staffed and unstaffed areas in the wilderness and in the program areas in the backcountry of Philmont, separated by some backpacking. So the backpacking is a necessary evil, if you choose to see it that way, to get you from place to place. It's really about what you do in the backcountry, that's what makes Philmont different than a normal backpacking trip. It's like, why do you go there and not just go backpack somewhere else? Because of all the cool stuff you get to do while you're back there. So picking your itinerary is really picking what those cool things are you want to do when you're back there. That's kind of how I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, our group, we'd spend a lot of time on those first couple pages of, I think it's like page 20 of the book, 21, 22, where it kind of outlines a list of, what activities there are, what treks they're on, start to have the boys look at the different types of activities. And we had them all kind of make a list, what are your top 5 or 6 activities? And then we'd sit down as a group and have everybody kind of throw out their list of things like, what would you really like to do? So we had a list of, 15, 18 different activities. And then we'd start to kind of narrow that down and say, how would you prioritize this? What's your most favorite thing? Is it Baldy, or do you want to do, black powder rifle, or is it rock climbing, or is it, whatever? There's a huge range of different things that, do you want to do railroading? Do you want to do the mountain biking? There's so many different things. And we told them, we're not going to find one that has everything that you want, but if we have a list of, 12 or 15 different options, we're probably going to be able to pick a few different ones, 3 or 4 at least, that are going to have many of those options on that list. And then the other thing we looked at the collection of scouts and adults that were going, and it did play in, they categorized the different routes, the different itineraries by difficulty as well, from, strenuous and super strenuous and all of that. So I think it's challenging, rugged, strenuous, super strenuous. So you get, longer distancing, more backpacking, or some of the shorter ones sometimes have, a little more programming. So you kind of try and balance that too with your group. Do I have a younger group? Do I have a more inexperienced group? Or do I have a stronger group that maybe is more willing to take on a bigger challenge? Do I have a group that really wants a lot of programming, a lot of time programming, where maybe we're only, you've got 4 miles between camps, so you can get there pretty early in the morning, and then you've got all day to do whatever activities at the next, staffed camp. You have all those kind of factors that come into play, but that's kind of how we approached it, to look at what was most important to them. And then we'd start to evaluate, from strength of our group, what did we have? Did we want to shoot for something that was really, really strenuous? Did we want to have something that was a little easier, but maybe a little bit heavier on, how much time we had doing programming? So,
Yep. One other thing to maybe temper the programming discussion with your scouts is just to alert them that some of the programs are highly weather dependent. Mm-hmm. And, yes. It could be that you don't get to hike Baldy. That may be your top choice, but for whatever reason, the weather doesn't cooperate, you get up late, things happen. And just make sure that they understand that, this is your itinerary in the ideal state. So don't be disappointed if some things fall off your list for one reason, for one event or other.
I would like to comment the rating from challenging, rugged, strenuous, super strenuous. Philmont categorizes them that way, but there's a couple of things that go into that. I mean, what makes one more than the other? And the difficulty of the trek is really based on 2 things. In my mind, and that is certainly distance that you're backpacking, and the other one is altitude changes. You may only go 3 or 4 miles, but you might have to climb 2,000 feet and come back down 1,000. So those are the factors that really go into how Philmont ranks their itineraries. It's not just strictly miles. And to the point of not being able to do the program, rock climbing is another good one. If it's raining or lightning, it ain't happening. And the other thing that they pointed out in the guidebook this year is just even though it may not be raining and weather related or so forth, if they don't have the staff may be deployed on other activities such as a SAR, search and rescue. You know, they may not have the staff to do the program, you know, at a particular time that you may be there. Also, pass through crews, a crew not staying at a particular camp can partake of the activities on a space available basis. It's not guaranteed. Just because I'm walking through Plano doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to do the Smart Bowl one.
That's true.
There's been discussion in the past few years through the surveys that, well, you know, we went through this camp or whatever, and, you know, it didn't happen for a particular reason, you know.
That's true. I always let the kids decide, like, again, like everybody else said, what is the main thing they want to do? If eight scouts and 7 out of 8 want to do Baldy, okay, we're going to be doing Baldy. Okay, that it's going to eliminate half the treks right there. And I really, since depending on the age group of the scouts, if I'm young, if I'm top heavy in 14 and 15-year-olds, I try to steer them away from doing a super strenuous, because they may not have the physical capability of doing some of those heavier hikes. Just say, hey, just don't even look at those. Just trust me. You'll find everything you need on everything but a super strenuous, and just stay with that. But I always let the scouts decide and try to let them figure what's their top activities they're going to do. If everybody wants to do black powder shooting, okay, so we're going to go with these couple camps and let's work from there.
Yeah, I noticed the scroll that was going by here and tips for selecting the itinerary. One of the things with horse riding, you're limited to a 200-pound person or less. So, you know, if you know, that plays into the factor. I mean, what is the true physical makeup of the crew members?
This is true. If you have a lot of kids that are over 200 pounds, then don't pick a horse riding,
Right.
Or adults over 200 pounds.
Yep.
So a plea to our listeners here is, if you're dealing with multiple crews that you're planning travel to Philmont, if you find that the scouts are diverging in their interests, don't try to force them into becoming sister crews on the trail and doing the same itinerary. Let them do their own itinerary. You don't have to see each other for 7, 9, 12 days. You'll see each other back and share some awesome experiences back at base camp. So again, let everybody do their own crew.
Yeah. On that comment, Scott, having led multiple contingents, I personally stay away from the trek selection process. Keep really a hands off, because I can't coordinate 5, 6 crews. I really leave it to the crew advisor, to work with his or her crew, That's
true. That's the way I do it too. I don't get involved with each individual crew. I worry about the crew I'm on.
I was thinking not so much as a contingency, but a unit with multiple crews.
Okay.
They all know one another. They want to hike together. They are probably doing shakedowns together. And there's a tendency to want to stay together, but I would encourage them to split up.
And that drives to the point of once the crew selects it and you input your itinerary selection, the algorithm will pick for you. They will allow 2 crews on the same day to hike the same hike. They're not necessarily sister crews. They may not know each other, but there will be 2 1213A and a 1213B, itinerary. If you choose to be a sister crew, you tend to, in the lottery system, you tend to limit yourself to the itineraries that you end up getting, because you're competing with the 15, 20, or 30 crews, probably 30 crews that are showing up for that day.
Yep,
that's true.
So things that you need to think about, like how to narrow down the list of itineraries? Because we start out with a lot of different options. What are some quick and easy ways to whittle that list down? Like instead of starting with 30, well, okay, let's take 20 of those out of the picture quickly. What are some good ways to quickly narrow it down?
I would go with Baldy, Tooth of Time. Which one would they, or something like that? Because if they can do Baldy, there's only one trek that does both. So if they want to do Baldy, you're going north.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to do Tooth of Time, they may get lucky enough to do like a Mount Phillips or Big Red or Black, but you're pretty well limited yourself to the south. If they're doing if they want to do Tooth of Time, watch the sunrise, you're going to be limited to the south. End of story. Is it, Daryl, is there only one trek going north and south?
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. So
there's two. One going from south to north, and the other one going north to south.
Yeah. So if you want to do both, you got two. But I mean that would I bet you that one's a very high in demand trek. One of those two.
Oh yeah.
And some risk to it, I understand too. It may get called off. Yeah.
Yeah, they can get called. You could pick it, and you could end up in North Country the whole time if the weather's bad, or end up in the South Country the whole time and the weather's bad. So you gotta have the scouts buy into that. Say, hey, you may not be able to get to do what you want to do, because I know last year they closed Baldy for 3 or 4 days when we were there with all the rain.
So I agree with you. Baldy. To the time.
Those are the two big. Those are the two big mountains everybody knows, everybody hears about. So I would say pick one of those two. Which one you want to do? Oh, Baldy. Okay, everything in the South Country is gone. End of story.
Yeah, the big thing is once you identify your first and second priority, those 20, 25 treks fall away.
Yep.
In almost instantly.
Yep, it does.
So how much emphasis would you put on the physical capabilities of a crew when you're looking at the itineraries?
Most of them they could do. I would really stay away from the super strenuous, because like Daryl said, those are geared more for crews that do a lot of backpacking. And I know most of the scouts from Florida don't do a lot of backpacking, and if we do backpacking, we backpack in Florida. We're flat, so a 2,000 elevation upgrade in 3 or 4 miles is, I don't care, it's going to kill anybody from Florida. So I usually try to steer them away from super strenuous, just to be safe, for lack of better terms. Because how many super strenuous hikes are there? About 5.
I would put a lot of weight on the ability of the crew.
4, 5. Yeah, there's only 5 super strenuous, so that's not too bad. You're going from 30 to 35 automatically. And then if you pick Baldy, you're down to 15. So that's not bad.
So, so something I'll throw out there is, if you are leading this process, if you're putting these options out there for your crew and helping your crew leader to come up with the list that the crew agrees on to submit, do what you want with your crew. But I'm going to suggest check the pulse of all your adults first as well. Because I know it's real easy to get hung up on how old are our scouts and who has experience and who doesn't, and forget that us old people have to keep up with them as well. So if the scouts all unanimously agree that they're, they're all captains of their respective cross-country teams, and they want miles, they want peak bagging. That's all they want. They don't care about the other program. They want miles. And then you realize when you get there that all of your adults really don't want miles. that could be a problem.
You might check, in addition to their pulse, you might check their blood pressure too on that.
Yeah, that's what I say. The ability of your crew. Be honest. What can the overall crew do? Physically. Personally, I think any youth who is relatively active in sports and not an absolute, okay, couch potato, the youth are not going to have a big problem. As far as the strenuousness, I think it's going to be more towards the adult, and that needs to be considered. Because you're only limited to 4 adults, and if something happens, they're coming off the trail.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yep.
So I'm curious on that point. And some of you have a lot more experience with crews at Philmont than I do. Have you ever had, particularly an adult, drop out of a crew based on the itinerary selection?
Based on what?
The itinerary that was selected by the crew. They thought they just couldn't do it, or it was not what they were expecting.
I don't think I've ever seen one once they got there and started it.
Not started, but actually you picked it up. You're still at home. You haven't even left yet.
I haven't heard of anybody doing that. I think that's got to be a very integral part of the discussion before you make the submission.
Yeah.
I would think someone like Daryl or Sal, who are taking a variety of crews year after year. Have you run into a situation where after the trek selection come back and you see who's got what? Some people put their hands up and say, "Hey, can we switch? You got a shorter one. We got a more strenuous one. You probably like that better than me. Can we switch?" Do you have adults doing that?
I've never had an adult ask to switch. I've never had an adult bail on me before they went. I mean, I usually tell the adults, even though you don't get a vote, your opinion matters. So if the kids want to pick a super strenuous and you don't think you could do it, please speak up and tell them why, and maybe they'll drop down to a strenuous. Even though the adults don't get a vote, again, they don't get a vote, but they do get their opinion matters. The kids can still pick whatever they want, but I always keep the adults in mind. And I tell all my leaders that way. I keep the adults in the loop, even so they can understand what the kids are doing. What we did this year, something different, is I had one of my adults in another crew create a Google form, and every crew's filling it out. What activities 1 through 10, 5 star, 1 star to 5 star, every activity. And you can print it out. You can print out just your crew number, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
it's been a while, but I can imagine some, new adults who've never been to Philmont seeing these mileages on some of these itineraries, and they're going, "Wow, the shortest one is like 50 miles." I think that can be intimidating.
Oh, it's going to be intimidating. I always tell the parents that Philmont, unless you've been in the military or something close to it, Philmont's probably the hardest thing that most people have ever done in their life, whether you're a youth or an adult. Like I said, unless you've been in the military or something, your job makes you do this every day, you've never done anything like this. And it doesn't get any easier. Every year it gets just as tough. No matter how many times you do it.
And that's more reason to, the training at home before you leave. Get out and pack. Walking around the neighborhood. I don't care. Walking up and down steps to the high school stadium with your pack on.
Yep.
Just,
I tell my crews, we do a once a month crew training, but that means the other 3 weekends you should be doing something on your own. If you're playing a sport at school, that's great, but most adults don't play sports at school. So the adults are the ones I worry about more, follow up on their training. I always ask them, what do you train and how are you doing it? Yeah. I'll ask my adults more than I ask my kids, because I'm more worried about the adults training than the kids.
Oh, yeah. So why don't we, just in case we got anyone watching who hadn't been through this process before and is trying to figure out how to read this itinerary trek book, why don't we go through one of these and explain what everything here is? And do we have a volunteer? Anyone on the panel want to kind of guide us through?
Pick a better one than that. No, pick 24. Pick 24.
Pick 24.
24. I think that's the same one. I think
Hold
that's
on.
the same 21, 24 is what we did last year.
Order me around already. Hang
I
on.
know.
Almost there. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Yep, that's mine.
Yep.
I can do that
I
one.
did the
I'll
year
do it.
before you did, so we're together.
They changed it a little bit. Okay, so you want me to start? Okay, you're camping. Jump right in, Scott, if I missed something. Your camping and hiking highlights. These are some of the highlights of your trek. You're going to do Baldy. You're going to go into Vilvadal. The Vilvadal is the land to the north of what we call Philmont proper, which is a Philmont property. So you get to go off Philmont property for a couple of days. You get to go to Greenwood Canyon, which is also off Philmont property, and you get to hike through Baldy Skyline. That's some of your highlights. Your program highlights, these are some of the fun things you get to do. You get to pick up a burro. You get to do mountain biking. You get to do muzzle loading rifles, and you get to do cowboy action shooting. So those are three, but not all the programs you do, but those are some of the highlights you get to do. And the mileage says 67. I tell people that's from, that's from camp to camp to camp, probably by the way the crow flies. I tell people take 20% of that, add to it, and add an extra 10 miles just for giggles and kicks. So I would take that one. If it says 67, I'd go to 70, add 14, and add another 5 or 6. So I'd guess 85 miles would be a good guess. What you're going to be doing, because the mileage does not count to say, okay, I'm at my camp. I got to do program. Well, the muzzle loading is not right at Miranda program. You got to probably hike a half a mile to get to the range. And you got a half a mile back. Well, you just did an extra mile. That's not part of the 67 miles we're talking about.
Yeah. But it's without a pack in that case.
That's without a pack, yes.
Right.
Okay, keep on going. What else is down there?
All right. Well, we got the map over here.
Okay, you got the map over there. It starts off, it shows you where you're going to get dropped off, lower right-hand corner. That's probably a 6 mile gate. You have 6 mile gate, 9 mile gate. And what's the next gate called?
O'Neill.
O'Neill, very good. Not 12 mile gate. All right, your first day is where the 2 is. The second day is where 3 is. Next page will tell you where these camps are. There's your 4th day. There's your 5th day. And it shows you where you're going to pick up food, where you're going to do a conservation project. That's the little food sign, the little X and what the X and that's your conservation project is going to be there. And it shows you where you're going to go the next day after that. And it's going to show you the next day after that. Keep on going. It'll show you down into Baldy where you're going to pick up food. And it'll show you day number 10 as you hike back where you're going back there. It'll show you where you're going to end and where you're going to be picked up.
Yeah, you use that page in conjunction, obviously, with the next page. The map there showing the 1s, the 2s, the 3s, and the 4s correspond to the second page. You know, the days,
Right.
What you're going to do.
And then also on this page, it says so it tells you about your conservation project. Day 5 is going to be at Ring Place. You're scheduled for 10:30 in the morning, and you're doing fossil fuel reduction, which that means you're going to be cutting down branches off trees and pulling them into the meadows when they do a controlled burn. We did that last year. It was very fun. And then this last page with the blue bars, that's going to show you your elevation gains and your distance every day. So the first day, day 2, you have a couple miles there. Day 3, you go up to 10 miles. So they hit you hard on the second day of the trail. Then you drop down, and you drop down, and you go back up. And day 7, you're back up with over 10 miles. Day 8, you're low. Day 9, you're low. You're at 6 miles. And day 10, you're low. Day 12, you're even less than a mile on day 12.
So would anyone else have any trepidation about this? Just from what they see on this right here on elevation gains and distance. I'll tell you, day 3 to me has got enough mileage and elevation gain that I've had some altitude acclimation issues on the last 2 treks, and it's usually day 3 that it hits me. So if all else is equal and we can pick one that has an easier day 2, 3, and 4 as far as distance and mainly elevation gain. Distance doesn't seem to matter as much. Elevation gain for me.
Well,
Then kind of shifting that altitude profile later in the trek works better for me.
Jeff, if you look at just as a comparison, think about this mapping and the elevation gain, and then look at something like 21 as just a comparison side by side to think about if we just look at what you just talked about.
Yep.
21 is what we did.
Yep.
And it was one of the reasons we chose it was exactly what you talked about. The distance and the elevation gain was much more moderate throughout many days into the trek. And then we still hit Baldy, but it was later on in the trek when we had all the elevation gain, all the distance. So we had a chance to kind of ease into our trek. And by the time we hit high miles and high elevation, we were in stride, and that was no problem. So that was something we looked at in the itinerary process that helped us rank something like this above something like 24, where maybe a lot of the activities are the same, but one is maybe a little heavier in the beginning and one is a little heavier at the end. Well, we chose one that was a little heavier at the end.
Yeah, well, what I noticed on 24 compared to last year, this year, when you get down to 24, when you go to the second page.
Well, I'm sorry, before you go there.
Yes, sir.
Go to the elevation gain on 24 again. I agree with Jeff and Indy's point about that peak on day 2 or 3 it is. But you're doing a lot of miles too. So it's not a straight up steep climb in this particular day. In fact, I was thinking, I don't remember that being a bad day.
Well, no, they've changed it.
Oh, okay.
I think where Sal's going, look at page 2. On page 2, Jeff, scroll down. It gives you your distance on that day and the elevation gain and loss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, day 1, you're at camping headquarters. They drop you off and you hike to Anastasia. 2 miles, easy peasy. That's probably the easiest trek in the books.
Mm-hmm.
Next day is a beast because you're going almost 10 miles all the way to Dan Beard.
Yeah.
If you know Philmont, there's 2 ways to get to Dan Beard from Metcalf. You can go the long way through Cook Canyon, or you can go up and over and drive the ridgeline and drop into Dan Beard. Last year, you stopped at Cook Canyon instead of going, and you didn't stop.
That's right. That is right. You're
so correct. They changed it around a little bit this year. I think they did that because the Sealy Canyon is now dry.
One thing when you're going through this, the other thing that you might do not only in the book is get the map out.
Yep.
Lay the contour, the overall map, or buy a map from Philmont if you don't have one, so that you can actually put your finger and trace the route.
Yep, I would too. Yeah. Okay. Day 1, day 3, you go to Dan Beard, 10-mile hike. Your gain is 1,100 feet. Your loss is 345. You're going to stop at Metcalf Station and do railroading and blacksmithing. Again, both of those are weather. Blacksmithing may not be. Railroading definitely is a weather-related event. And then from Metcalf Station, you're going to hike all the way to Dan Beard. Next morning, you're going to get up and you're going to do the challenge events at Dan Beard before you leave for Sealy Canyon. Word of advice, what I would do if this was my trek for next year, I would try to get to Dan Beard before 2 o'clock, and maybe you could squeeze that challenge course in the day before, as opposed to doing it first thing in the morning. Then you're going to hike the Sealy Canyon, which is a D. If you notice on front of Sealy Canyon, it says D for dry. It is a dry camp, so your water is at Dan Beard. There is no water between Dan Beard and Sealy Canyon. I'm trying to think if there is any.
Hey, Sal, before we go past day 3, 4,
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, your ranger departs your crew before you head out for Sealy Canyon the next morning, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Morning of day 3, he will be leaving your crew.
Yeah, morning, day and 3. He's with you for 2 days. Anastasia and Namibia, those 2 nights.
See,
And
And that's for every itinerary, not just this one.
correct.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
A
Sealy
side,
Canyon.
note, a side note for anybody who has been there before, Sealy Canyon used to be a trail camp. It is now, or it used to be a staff camp. It is now a trail camp, and it's dry. When it was a staff camp, they had a water buffalo. So that is a change this year. And also, there is no program at Sealy. Prior, they used to do search and rescue there, but they've moved, since it's a trail camp, they don't have a program. So just be aware of that it's a change for this year.
And I don't think the closest water to Sealy Canyon is Danbury, unless you walk over to.
There's a couple of, and this is another point for having the map. There is some windmills along the way, particularly at what I call Lower Betty Lake.
Yeah. Sometimes there's water there, sometimes there's not.
Yeah, so these are good details to kind of give people an idea of the things you want to think about, but we don't need to explore every one of those details.
Okay.
This is more of how do you read the.
Okay, gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's just go back. Okay, well, Sealy Canyon. Next day, you're going to get up. Day 5, you're going to hike the White Man Vega. It's only a 4-mile hike. You're going to stop and do your conservation project at Ring Place, and also pick up food at Ring Place. There we go. It's highlighted. Next, after you leave Ring Place, you're going to keep on going to White Man Vega. Next morning, you'll get up, do mountain biking at White Man Vega, and then you're going to go to Iris Park, which is a 6-mile hike from White Man Vega to Iris Park. Both White Man Vega, Sealy Canyon, and Iris Park are leave no trace camps. So what that means is there's a different way to hang up bear bags, which your ranger will teach you. There are no red roofs. If you know what a red roof is, the outhouses. That means you will have to be doing cat holes for your restrooms. After you leave Iris Park, which is a trail camp, you will hike to Upper Greenwood. That's one of your longer days. That's 11 miles going uphill most of the way. It's a low impact, leave no trace trail camp. There's nothing to do there, but just kind of chill out. Next morning, you're going to get up, keep on going up. If you look at the map, you're going to climb Mount Baldy, and then you're going to go to Copper Park. If you look at here, you see. Yeah,
and you notice there what you want to look at as you're looking at these things. Look at that altitude gain.
Yep.
You got 14, 2,000, another 2,000.
A lot of altitude gains there.
Yeah.
It's doable. Next day after leaving Copper Park, you're going to hike over to Baldy Town, and you're going to do the history of Baldy Town, mining history. You're going to pick up food at Baldy Town. You're going to go to Miranda and do muzzle loaders, tomahawks. It's a fur trapper rendezvous. Next morning, you're going to get your burro pickup at Miranda and hike to Plano. Plano is the Continental Tire and Lumber Company. You will do spar pole climbing, and they also have a campfire. Campfire program is a song singing by the staff. I would highly recommend try to get a camp, do an itinerary that has one of those because they are awesome. Next morning, you're going to get up from Plano and hike straight to Baldy. If you notice there's an S in the corner, that means it has showers. That is your only shower on the trek. You drop off your burro. You're going to do Western lore and branding. You do horse riding. You do chuck wagon dinner, which means they will feed you. You don't have to carry your food for that day, of supper at least. And they do a cantina show. Next morning, you're going to hike after you do cowboy action shooting. You're going to hike 1 mile to the pickup area. The bus will pick you up and it will take you back to base camp where you do the awards campfire that night.
A comment on the burro, and it's noted in there. If your itinerary says burro packing, picking up a burro, you must do it. You can't opt out of that. Say, well, I don't want the burro. Well, you don't have that choice.
That is true. And also horseback rides. If you have anybody over 200 pounds, they cannot do horsebacks.
Right.
And the upper lowercase trail camp
Oh,
days.
upper lowercase, all uppercase is staff camps. Lowercase are trail camps. The difference between those, pretty easy. They have staff there. So you'll have other staff there will help you if you have questions or something like that, need something. The trail camps, there's nothing there but you. There may be another crew there. There may not be another crew. You may have the whole camp to yourself. It all depends on the time of day and time of year and the camp. It's at the bottom. It says campsite elevation. The minimum is 6,848 feet. That's where the lowest place you're going to be camping. The highest you're going to be camping is 10,453. You have 5 staff camps, 5 trail camps, and 1 dry camp. So your conservation project is at Ring Place, and you need the north sectional map. So when you get to Philmont, buy at least 2 of them. One for the kid, one for the scouts, and one for the adults.
Also, there are some treks, and I don't know which one, but you are going to have to make a choice at base camp. I know particularly the ones that involve what's the south side of Schaefer's Pass, but Schaefer's Pass and Clark's Fork. Clark's Fork has chuck wagon dinner. You will have to make your choice of whether you're going to side hike the Tooth of Time, or are you going to go to Clark's Fork directly and partake of chuck wagon dinner. I can't remember. There's a couple of hikes where you have to make that choice. You can't do both. There's just not enough time to do it.
That's true. It all depends again. All depends on your trek that you get.
Yeah. So when you're looking at the different itineraries, this one 24 says it's strenuous hiking with some program time. You get some of the shorter ones may be much heavier in program time. You spend less time getting from place to place, more time actually doing the activities there. You get on one of the super strenuous ones, you may go through some camps that have some awesome program opportunities. You don't get to do them because
Right.
You don't have time. You got to keep.
You don't have time,
walking.
right? You got to get to point A to B fast. And if you have 3 or 4 10-mile days, you're not going to be time for anything. This was not a bad. I mean, we did it last year. We had plenty of time to do everything. We got to do all our program. We even squeezed in a program that wasn't even on there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
we'll do that for another time.
As you move through the itineraries 1 to 35, the lower numbers tend to have more program and less hiking. And as you move through them, the distance and the hiking becomes stronger, and the program's availability, both time-wise and staff and camps, seems to diminish a little bit.
So for those crews that have a 7-day or a 9-day,
yeah,
any different recommendations for selections or any other things to be aware of?
Most of your 9 days, I think they don't do as many mileage. I think they stop at the 50, 60 mile range. And same thing with the 7 days, their mileage is usually under 50 miles.
Right.
There's no way you can do a 7-day hike with only 5 days on the trail and do 50 miles. So it's going to be, that means a 10-mile day every day. I don't think any of those even have anything close to this. So
right.
That's what you have to look at. It's a little too late to plan what you want to do. If you want a 10-day, 12-day, 7-day, or 9-day. But I think most of your 7 days, I want to say stay under 50 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And your 9 days may have a few that go over 50 miles. So again, if that's what your crew decided to pick, I understand why they have them, to get more people out of the ranch. But I personally like the 12 days.
Well, the 7 and 9 day tend to accommodate the adults with limited vacation.
Yep. Yeah.
So for those, the only thing I can think of is if you have scouts working on the backpacking merit badge, for example, I think they have to do a 35-mile trek is one of their requirements.
20 miles.
Is it 20? So they wouldn't have an issue with probably any of these treks.
Not in 12-day trek, no.
If you're working on the 50-miler patch, that might be an issue if you're doing a 7-day.
Yeah, probably a 5-day would really be pushing it for the 50-mile award.
Yeah, I don't think any of the any of the 5 days go over 50 miles.
Right.
I haven't looked at them because I just kind of.
But you might have some 9 days that might bounce above and below the 50 miles. So if you have any scouts working on the 50-miler, you might want to skew up a little higher on the mileage.
Yes.
And Jeff, as you scroll through there in that itinerary book, way down on the page numbers they do list the 9 and the 7-day treks.
Right.
In there. So
yeah, I got distracted trying to figure out which one we did last year. I think it may have been this one. I literally can't remember the itinerary number already.
Man, that's pretty, and you're a youngster. Man, when you get my age.
I've got I think I have COVID brain right now. That is,
sure.
Yeah.
Anything more about, and I don't mean to take over, Jeff, but anything more about itinerary selection? What goes into it?
From a process standpoint, like the mechanics of getting all of the recommended or choices for activities, like getting a rank order of here are the activities that are important to us, whether it be spar pole climbing or blacksmithing or a list of peaks that they want to go to. What physical method do you use for that? Or do you just hand it to the crew leader and say, bring me back this list?
From a crew leader, from an adult crew leader, I take care of it. I send out the information to everybody, all the youth, and have them send it back to me. And then we'll get together and hash out. I said, okay, here's eight scouts. Here's from what the ones I got. And I always tell them, if you don't send me back your votes, you got no say. Simple as that. So you better not complain. If you didn't vote for Baldy, you didn't want to do Baldy, you should have spoke up and said, I don't want to do Baldy. But I always tell them, and I always get them together and say, okay, here's the eight youth or whatever I have. Everybody wants to do. These are the top activities that everybody wants to do, whether it be shooting sports or rock climbing, rappelling. We have, or it may not be everybody, it may only be the majority. The majority wants to do Baldy, maybe 6 out of 8, but that's the majority. So, okay, so we're going with the majority rule, unless the ones that don't want to do Baldy can talk the other ones into doing it, not doing it. So, but I let the majority rule, and then they have to kind of, for lack of better terms, fight it out.
Yeah,
just decide what. I mean, one year I had one kid that he was bent on trying to do astronomy. Well, he was 1 out of 8 that wanted to do astronomy. We didn't do astronomy that day because he just got outvoted. Simple as that.
They had stars at all the camps anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Yeah, you
kind of like our panel.
Sure. Ooh.
The itinerary selection, and once you've identified the activities you want to do, and here are the treks that do them, then you got to sit down and there's no easy way to muddle through and say, what's going to be my, second, third, and fourth choice.
Sure.
But it should be a crew to the youth, making that decision, and ultimately, it becomes a little bit deer in the headlights. Like I don't know, but you got to walk through that process.
But even if you get your third or fourth or fifth choice, it's going to be good. You're going to have a great time.
There is no bad itinerary.
Right. Right.
Well, I always tell my scouts, your first selection is the one you really want to do. That's a 5-star. Your second choice is a 4.5 star. Yeah. And then it's a 4-star. Then it's a 3.5 star. So that's the way you look at it. You really want to do the 5-star trek that everybody wants, but you don't get it. To let everybody know, last year, 6 crews, 4 out of the 6 got their first choice.
My,
That's not bad odds.
No.
And the other 2 got their second choice.
overall, Philmont says that, and I'm sure they're taking in both the 12 or all of the 12, the 9, and the 7 day. They say close to 90% of every of the crews get their first choice.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
All right. I want to interrupt for a second and say we've gone an hour. So this is the I don't want to call it a 2-minute warning. However many minutes it takes to wrap this up.
The witching hour.
We haven't had a lot of interaction in the comments. If you've got questions, if you're going through this process or about to go through this process, you have any questions, speak up, leave your comments now. I'm curious if they're coming in and we're not seeing them, or if we're just not seeing, if people just don't have questions. But if you do, ask them now, or go ask them in the group later. But you've got us here to answer if you like. Now, I wanted to point out something that you may have noticed when we were going through the itinerary guidebook, the official Philmont publication, is they said very specifically, your only source of truth is official Philmont published information, which I think is basically saying, if you use something else, like the site that I have up here, which is called Philtrek, then that is unofficial information. It may or may not prove to be true. They're not guaranteeing you that stuff published on other people's websites is going to be true. So keep in mind, now that I've said that, this the site that you see up here, it's Philtrek.com, Philtrek.com. And a gentleman goes in and updates the itineraries every season and has built a tool to help you go through some of the different options. I would say absolutely consider using it. See if it looks useful to you. Compare it to the tool that you have through the Camping Gateway that Philmont has built. If it's useful, use it. If it's not, don't. Cross-check any critical information to be sure that that you're getting accurate information, regardless of what source you use.
It's true. I've used it in the past, but I've always cross-checked it with the official Philmont. I may have the itinerary book in front of me while I'm looking at Philtrek.
Right.
You're always going to be looking at multiple sources. Look at Philmont, and then you look at somebody else's website. What is the difference?
Got a few questions here. This is a trail camp and a dry camp.
Okay. Dry camp means there is no water there, so you may have water at breakfast or lunch, but you will not have water till probably sometime in the late morning or even lunchtime the next day. Again, depending on what your dry camp is and where it's at. So you may have to go from breakfast to lunch the next day with no water sources available. So you will have to carry extra water for that day. And they tell you how to cook. You cook ahead of time and all that stuff like that. You switch your lunches for dinners and stuff like that. But that's a dry camp.
And the guidebook will tell you where the best available water is. Like we looked at the one, it said Sealy was dry, and it said water at Ring Place, or Dan Beard.
Oh, Dan Beard, yeah.
And the other,
here's one I can't answer.
Well, they hadn't finished the question. They hadn't finished the question yet.
Really?
They told the difference between a wet and a dry camp, not the difference between a staffed and a trail camp.
staff and trail camp is just that. There is a staff camp. There is a staff. There's most likely a program there. A trail camp is just a wide spot in the trail.
There you go. Trail camp is just
so
you.
you ask about 2 camps, trail camps and dry camps. The third one is the staff camp. So we covered them all.
There probably are no dry staffed camps. You only have a dry trail camp, and not all of them are dry. Got it.
The closest thing they have to a dry staff camp is Ring Place, and they bring in a water buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, who's actually done this process where you go put them in?
I have.
The Camping Gateway. All right. Is it hard? Easy?
No, it's easy.
It's simple.
It's when they open it up, whatever day they open up at whatever time it is, you don't see it. So let's say it's 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, it opens up. The
Yep.
gate will open up and they'll say, enter your choices. You enter 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. You hit enter and they say, are you sure you want 2, 4, 6, 8, 10? Yes or no? Yes.
Yep.
Done. And a month later, you get an email saying you were awarded this number.
Yep.
It's
You
pretty
think
easy.
Facebook user could handle it?
Yes, Mr. Facebook user is a well-educated scoutmaster.
I suspect Facebook user has had experience trying to enter merit badge classes in some summer camps, and those are sometimes awful, and the system crashes. So yeah, this is great.
It's really easy.
The housekeeping process is really simple. It'll open on January the 16th. It'll close at 9 a.m. on February the 16th. Any time between there, you can modify your choices. And it doesn't matter if you get them in on day one, January 16th, or February the 10th, because the algorithm for the lottery doesn't run until it closes on February the 16th. So you have time to modify it,
Hey, Daryl, to that point, I would kind of recommend going in there early, even if your crew hasn't selected, and just put in some draft selections in there just to get familiar with it. The last thing you want to do is the last day and trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, once it opens up, it's really easy.
On the Philmont side, nothing's going to happen until February 16th.
Okay, so we kind of touched on this earlier. What do you do if they pick something that not everyone can handle?
Well, in this case, if you're talking about super strenuous and physical, make an honest assessment and say, can the individuals who are saying they don't think they can do it, could they get in shape? You got 6 months, more reason to do the training ahead of time. Do you think you can get there? I would like to see everybody in the crew, be challenged. And then there's being challenged out of your mind, and you're no way in God's green earth you're going to do it. But, stretch yourself a little bit, and, overall, I would say the trek is, 80% mental. A lot of it is mental. Physical, it's 80% and 30% physical.
Well, and I think you will have situations, though, where you may have some scouts. And I think this question may be from the point of view that I've got a scout or multiple scouts that physically are not going to be able to handle this. And I know that as an advisor before we even make the selection. If that's the case, I'm bringing that up at least a little bit, saying, I'm not sure this is maybe appropriate for our group. I love that, we're interested in that. Maybe that's something we can work towards. But hey, why don't we take a look at some of these other ones that still have some of the activities that you want to do, but are now in the strenuous category, or maybe a tier down below that. So you can kind of guide them. You don't want to make the choice for them, but you do want to look at it and have the adults and the scouts in mind and say, what's our best case scenario if we took 6 months and trained really hard? Where could we be? And motivate them to press as far as they can. But you know your scouts better than anybody, and look at that and try and help them make selections that are going to be great fits for them, with still allowing them to challenge themselves and push beyond maybe a little bit of what they're comfortable with.
What itinerary can we be successful with? You don't want to set yourself up for failure.
Absolutely. And
that may be a different conversation with a group of 14-year-olds that are 100 pounds soaking wet versus a bunch of 17.
Absolutely.
Too. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, last year the crew that I was with, we had all variety of folks. We had some that honestly, I don't think it mattered what trek we picked, they were going to struggle. And it was the unfortunate and I believe correct decision to invite them to not go on the trek. And then we had a couple that were encouraged to get in shape so they could handle what we did. And most of them did. One of them didn't. And that one had issues on the trail. So I can tell you, as uncomfortable as it is to address it before you hit the trail, please do, because it is absolutely miserable when you have someone who breaks down on the trail and just can't. You know, we were in the middle of an eight mile day and someone just stopped. Can't do it. Can't go any further. And it was someone we had identified early on that and had to get in shape, and their feet weren't held to the fire. They weren't made to actually get in shape, and the whole crew paid for it. So I would say during trek selection, if you've got some people like that, consider that and encourage them for less strenuous. And if you need to be more aggressive at holding people's feet to the fire to get their preparation so that they will be ready, that's tough, but figure out what you're willing to do there, because you got to do it, whether you do it before you hit the trail or on the trail.
You don't want to do it on the trail.
We're going to struggle. You're going to have to deal with them.
Yeah,
So
I'd rather do it off the trail. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm brutally honest with my crew. I'll tell them straight up, that you can't handle this. This trek is way too much for you. Unless you plan to lose 30, 40 pounds or get in shape, you ain't going to make it. I mean, it's kind of hard for a 14 or 15 year or even 16 or 17-year-old kid to hear that sometimes. But just brutally honest with them. Say, hey, I'm sorry. I mean, I do it to the adults too. You ain't going to make it. They'll look at me. I want to go to Philmont. I know you ain't making it. You're way too short, as they say.
Can we hire
you're
you
way too short.
To
Yes.
cruise? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm brutally. I always tell the adults you're just too short for your weight. So you should be 6'9" to make it to Philmont. But
I don't have a weight problem. I got a height problem.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
A comment I would like to make, and I had a discussion with Steve at the ranch today. There's a couple of itineraries that go into Little Castile Mountain or Little Castile Camp. If you're a June itinerary, hiking the Little Castile Mountain is off limits due to the elk calving season. That's a New Mexico state rule. Last year, as an option, they offered Ash Mountain as the peak to hike from that camp because it's a 2-day layover camp. This year, they have taken Ash Mountain off the itineraries due to safety concerns and issues that they had last year. So if you're a June, a 6-something itinerary, and you choose one going to the camp Little Castile, be aware that there's probably not a peak for you to bag on that itinerary.
Interesting. All right.
Oh, here's
another water question, and Andy has already answered it, so we're just gonna.
Trail camps
pass it.
are typically
water camps.
Not necessarily dry. There may be springs or whatever there.
Yep.
Thank you, Andy, for answering that already.
Yes. Okay. Facebook user prolific with the questions this evening. Thank you. We appreciate it. Let's see. Ed, who can answer this one? Do you have to have the leaders?
The contingent or the crew advisor.
Yeah, the senior crew advisor. I call him the senior crew advisor.
And the crew advisor is the one who enters the itinerary choices.
Every crew will have what I call him the senior crew advisor, senior adult leader. He's the guy who enters the stuff in the Philmont Gateway. He's the only who has access to the Philmont Gateway. Nobody else does in that crew.
Right.
So
if there is a contingent advisor, he or she has access to all of the itineraries that he that he has in his contingent.
Correct.
Okay, well, that has exhausted the questions that came in. Thanks to all the folks who submitted questions. Thank you
Awesome.
to our esteemed expert panel.
No,
Once
when did
again, knocking it out of the park. Anything else anyone wants to cover before we wrap this up?
I would say if you as you work through this process, you have questions, post them out there on our Facebook page, and also use Philmont. I mean, if you got a question that maybe we can't answer or you think is best answered directly by them, give them a call, send them an email.
Yep. Philmont Camping at boyscouting.org.
Yep.
Yep. And we are actually, this weekend is our contingent first big camp out of all 6 crews. We do a Saturday night Philmont trek session. So what we have every crew show up with is their top 6 treks, and we go over each one of them with them, so they know what they're getting into. We'll see how that works.
Yes. And I will be leading the BSA National High Adventure Camps course at this weekend's Circle 10 Scouting University.
Awesome.
So if you've been throwing rotten virtual tomatoes at me here, you can do it in real life this weekend.
We will.
Okay.
I'll be camping, so there you go.
Well, send us the post so we can join in and throw those rotten tomatoes.
It's in person. There's no virtual this
Oh,
time.
okay.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thanks again, everyone on the panel. Andy, who's no longer on team chair, apparently. That's good to see. We always appreciate that. Scott, Sal, dead to me, Porto, and Daryl, thank you guys so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Thanks for all the questions out there. Ask anything you want in the Facebook group that you see scrolling by there at the bottom. Until next month, you got a month to wait until we be back again. Have we decided what we're going to talk about next month yet? Do we know?
Nope.
Look forward in the group.
Yeah, we usually don't know until about the time we fire it up. And then 2 minutes before we go live, it's like, hey, guys, what are we talking about? Yeah,
Something timely.
Something timely. Absolutely. If you have suggestions for a future discussion, please leave those in the Philmont Trek Talk group on Facebook as well. Until next time, let's see. I always try to remember how to tie it back to, is anybody not ready? I think I fumbled it this time. Yeah. So I'm just going to hit the end broadcast and we'll see you next month.